High Admiral Zextal of the Valdorian Empire stood before the massive holographic display, his iridescent scales reflecting the soft blue glow of Earth rotating beneath their fleet. 3 sets of eyes blinked in sequence as he processed the preliminary scans of the planet. Behind him, the bridge crew of the flagship Eternal Dominion worked in practiced silence, their movements precise and efficient. "Curious," he muttered, mandibles clicking softly. "Their energy signatures suggest early fusion technology, yet they've barely colonized their moon. How inefficient." First contact specialist Miravan approached, her ceremonial robes rustling against the polished deck. "The assessment teams confirm, Admiral. They appear to be a Type 1 civilization, just beginning to harness their planet's resources. Standard protocol suggests immediate integration into the Empire." Indeed, Zextal's primary heart quickened with anticipation. This would be his 70th successful integration, another triumph for the Empire's endless expansion. Prepare the diplomatic package. Standard terms: surrender of autonomous governance, technological uplift in exchange for resources and labor. The usual arrangement. The massive ships of the Valdorian fleet hung in high orbit, their crystalline hulls designed to inspire awe in primitive species. Zextal had overseen enough first contacts to know exactly how this would play out. The humans would see their superior technology, accept their terms, and become another productive member of the Empire. The response from Earth came faster than expected. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission. Text only, using our own encryption protocols." A pause. "Sir, they're asking if we'd like to schedule a meeting at their convenience, and if we have any dietary restrictions." Zextal's scales shifted to a deeper blue of confusion. They decoded our encryption. "That's—" He straightened his posture. "No matter. Send the standard terms. Make it clear that this is not a negotiation." The response was nearly instantaneous this time. The main screen filled with the image of a human woman, her dark skin contrasting with a crisp white uniform adorned with gold insignia. Her smile seemed genuine, but there was something in her eyes that made Zextal's secondary heart skip a beat. "Greetings, Admiral Zextal. I'm Admiral Helena Chen of the Earth Defense Force. I must say, your ships are quite impressive. Reminds me of my daughter's crystal growing kit." Her smile broadened. "About your terms, we have a counter-proposal." "Counter-proposal?" Zextal's scales flickered with irritation. "There is no room for negotiation. Our fleet—" "Yes, your fleet," Admiral Chen interrupted smoothly. "Currently being tracked by 15 different defense systems, not counting the autonomous platforms that my technical team had to convince not to start running diagnostics on your ship systems. They get a bit excited about new technology." The bridge fell silent. Zextal felt his scales shifting involuntarily to a pale green of uncertainty. "You're bluffing. Our scans show only what we allow them to show, Admiral." Chen's expression remained pleasant, but her eyes hardened. "You see, humanity learned long ago that it's better to be underestimated. We've been watching the stars for centuries, preparing, developing. Those fusion signatures you detected, that's our civilian tech. Would you like to see what we use for defense?" As if on cue, small points of light began appearing around Earth, stations, ships, and platforms that simply hadn't been there moments before, their stealth systems deactivating in a choreographed reveal that made Zextal's third heart nearly stop. "Impossible," Miravan whispered. "Their technological level is exactly what we wanted you to think it was." Chen finished. "Now about that meeting. I suggest we discuss terms that don't involve surrender. From either side." Her smile returned, warming several degrees. "We have excellent coffee, and I'm told our hydroponics division just perfected growing something similar to your homeworld's prized sunset fruit. Shall we start over?" Zextal stared at the display, his carefully laid plans crumbling before him. In all his years of first contact, no species had ever. He straightened his uniform, scales slowly shifting to a diplomatic purple. Perhaps we should indeed discuss alternative arrangements. Wonderful. Chen's enthusiasm seemed genuine. Oh, and Admiral, you might want to tell your stealth squadron hiding behind our moon to power down their weapons. Our orbital defense AIs get a bit twitchy about that sort of thing, and we'd hate to start our new relationship with an unnecessary light show. As Zextal hurriedly sent the order, he couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy had just become a much more interesting place, and somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice wondered just what else humanity was hiding behind their carefully crafted facade of primitive technology. The Valdorian High Command's emergency session buzzed with tension as Zextal's report echoed through the crystalline chamber. Supreme Commander Vexthor, his scales a deep crimson of barely contained rage, leaned forward on his gravity throne. "You mean to tell me," he rumbled, "that this supposedly primitive species not only detected our stealth squadron, but had the audacity to offer us refreshments?" With all due respect, Supreme Commander, Zextal's image flickered slightly in the holographic projection. "I believe we've gravely miscalculated. The humans have technologies we've never seen before. Their defensive capabilities are irrelevant." Vexthor slammed a clawed hand down. "The Empire does not negotiate. We do not retreat. And we certainly don't accept invitations to coffee." He spat the unfamiliar word like a curse. "Prepare the subjugation fleet." Back on Earth, in the gleaming headquarters of the Earth Defense Force, Admiral Chen watched the massive holographic display as hundreds of Valdorian warships emerged from hyperspace. She sipped her coffee, seemingly unperturbed by the show of force. "They really don't learn, do they?" Dr. Sarah Martinez, head of Earth's Defense Research Division, stood beside her, tablet in hand. "Should we show them the Artemis Protocol?" Chen smiled. "Not yet. Let's try something more subtle first." She tapped her neural interface. "Control, initiate Operation Lullaby." Across the vast expanse of space, the Valdorian fleet approached Earth with weapons charged. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood triumphantly on his flagship's bridge, expecting to see panic and chaos. Instead, his sensors detected nothing. No communications, no defense platforms, no movement. Even the orbital structures they'd seen before had vanished. "Status report," he barked. "Sir," his science officer responded, confusion evident in his tone. "We're detecting only minimal power signatures. Their military installations appear to be dormant." Vexthor's scales shifted to a smug orange. "As expected, they flee before our might. Begin the first wave of." He never finished the sentence. Throughout the fleet, ships began reporting strange anomalies. Navigation systems showed conflicting coordinates. Weapon systems initiated automated maintenance cycles that couldn't be overridden. Communication arrays began broadcasting what appeared to be something called elevator music. "Sir," the science officer's voice cracked, "I'm detecting quantum fluctuations throughout the fleet. It's as if reality itself is being rewritten around us." In the chaos that followed, no one noticed the small message that appeared on every command console. "Would you like to upgrade to Human Security Protocol 2.0? Your current system appears to be outdated." Back on Earth, Dr. Martinez couldn't suppress a grin. "The quantum entropy field is working perfectly. Their technology literally doesn't know what to believe anymore." Chen nodded, watching as the mighty Valdorian fleet effectively tied itself in knots, their advanced systems rendered useless by humanity's manipulation of fundamental forces they hadn't even discovered yet. "Send the message," she ordered. Across every Valdorian ship, screens lit up with Admiral Chen's face. "Supreme Commander Vexthor, I presume. I apologize for the inconvenience, but we thought a practical demonstration might be more convincing than words. What you're experiencing is just one of our civilian defense systems. We call it the Confusion Protocol. Very useful for avoiding unnecessary conflict." Vexthor's scales had turned an ashen gray. What are you?" "We're human," Chen replied simply. We've spent centuries preparing for contact with other species, both peaceful and otherwise. Your empire isn't the first to discover us, just the first we've chosen to reveal ourselves to. The others, she shrugged. Let's just say they decided diplomacy was a better option after similar demonstrations. The quantum fluctuations you're experiencing will subside once your fleet retreats to a safe distance, she continued. We'll even help repair any systems that were too badly confused by the experience. Consider it a gesture of goodwill. As the Valdorian fleet hastily withdrew, their once perfect formation, now a scattered mess of ships trying to remember which way was up, Dr. Martinez turned to Chen. You know they'll be back, right? With something bigger. Of course, Chen smiled, finishing her coffee. And when they do, they'll learn why we named our actual defense systems after ancient gods. Speaking of which, how is Project Olympus coming along? On schedule. Though I still think calling it a defensive system is a bit of an understatement. It's more like we figured out how to weaponize physics itself. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood before the Galactic Imperial Council, his scales now a permanent shade of anxious gray. The chamber, usually filled with the quiet confidence of the Empire's most powerful leaders, held an unfamiliar tension. They call it quantum entropy manipulation, he explained, his voice barely steady. Our most advanced chips were reduced to running diagnostic loops. They turned our own security protocols against us without firing a single shot. High Counselor Rixna, her crystalline form shifting colors with concern, leaned forward. Surely our new Titan-class dreadnoughts would what exactly? A new voice echoed through the chamber. The air shimmered, and suddenly, Dr. Sarah Martinez stood among them, her hologram so perfect it took the council members several moments to realize she wasn't physically present. Impossible. Vexthor's scales flashed white with shock. This chamber is protected by quantum encryption. Martinez smiled. Charming. We cracked that particular code while testing our children's neural education pods. She walked around the chamber, examining the ancient artifacts and technological marvels with the casual interest of someone touring a museum. By the way, that's not a hologram you're seeing. We're actually having this conversation through a small fold in space-time, much more energy efficient. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Guards rushed forward, weapons drawn, only to find their advanced energy weapons transforming into what appeared to be Earth aquatic toys that squirted water. Please, Martine sighed, let's be civil. If we wanted to harm you, we wouldn't be having this conversation. She produced a tablet from thin air, scrolling through data. Now about those Titan-class dreadnoughts you're planning to send our way. We have some suggestions for improvement. Your engineers really should look into quantum stabilization. The current design would tear itself apart if you tried to fire the main weapon. High Counselor Rixna's crystalline form vibrated with barely contained fury. You dare to lecture us? The Empire has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. And that's precisely the problem. A new voice joined the conversation as Admiral Chen materialized beside Martinez. 10,000 years of unchallenged supremacy has made you complacent. While you were perfecting bigger ships and stronger weapons, humanity was asking different questions entirely. What kind of questions? One of the younger council members asked, curiosity overcoming fear. Chen's eyes twinkled. Questions like, why travel through space when you can fold it? Or, what if gravity is just a suggestion? Or my personal favorite, who says causality has to work in only one direction? Martinez pulled up a holographic display showing the Empire's territory. For instance, right now we're simultaneously having this conversation in 12 different parallel timelines. In 8 of them, it ends peacefully. In 3, someone tries something unfortunate. And in 1, she shrugged. Well, let's focus on making this the peaceful version, shall we? What do you want? Vexthor finally asked, his voice barely a whisper. Want? Chen looked genuinely surprised. We don't want anything from you. We've been perfectly content developing our technology, exploring the mysteries of the universe, and enjoying our cat videos. You're the ones who showed up making demands." However, Martins added, her expression turning serious, "We would be interested in cultural and scientific exchange. Your artistic achievements, for instance, are fascinating, and we have some theories about crystal-based computing that your scientists might find intriguing." Exchange. Rixna's form shifted to a more contemplative blue. "Not surrender." "Why would we want you to surrender?" Chen asked. "Conquest is so inefficient. We prefer collaboration." Innovation. "Did you know we recently figured out how to teach quantum physics to dolphins? They had some fascinating insights about multiple-dimensional mathematics." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Rixna spoke, her tone carefully measured. Perhaps we should discuss these potential exchanges in more detail." "Wonderful," Chen beamed. "We've taken the liberty of preparing a preliminary proposal. We're particularly interested in your crystalline architecture. Our artists have some wild ideas about combining it with our quantum manipulation technology." As the humans began outlining their proposal, Vexthor couldn't help but notice that his scales had shifted to a new color, one he'd never displayed before. Later, he would learn that humans called it humbled appreciation. The Grand Exhibition Hall of Earth's Lunar Diplomatic Center hummed with activity as representatives from across the galaxy gathered for what humans had casually termed a science fair. Former Supreme Commander Vexthor, now serving as the Valdorian ambassador to Earth, found himself struggling to maintain his diplomatic composure as he watched a human child explain quantum entanglement to a group of bewildered alien scientists. "And that's why we use quantum crayons in kindergarten," the girl concluded, her pigtails bouncing as she demonstrated a drawing that somehow existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "It helps us understand spatial mathematics better." "Fascinating, isn't it?" Admiral Chen appeared beside Vexthor, offering him a cup of what he had come to know as hot chocolate, a beverage he'd grown embarrassingly fond of. "The younger generations especially have such a unique perspective on physics." "Unique is one way to put it," Vexthor managed, his scales shifting to a mix of wonder and confusion. "Though I must admit, I'm still trying to understand why you kept all of this hidden for so long." Chen smiled, watching as Dr. Martinez demonstrated Earth's latest breakthrough, a device that could temporarily turn light into matter and back again, which they were using to create interactive art installations. "We learned long ago that true power doesn't come from showing off. Besides, we were busy asking questions that most species hadn't even thought to ask yet." Across the hall, a group of Valdorian engineers stood in stunned silence as they watched a demonstration of Earth's basic transportation system. Vehicles that didn't so much move through space as gently suggest to reality that they should be somewhere else. "Your people seem to be taking it well," Chen observed, nodding toward the engineers. "Better than the Galactic Council did when they learned about your, what did you call it? Internet of Everything." "Ah yes," Chen chuckled. "They're still trying to wrap their heads around the fact that we linked every particle in our solar system into a quantum computing network. Though I think what really shocked them was learning we did it primarily to improve our video game graphics." Before Vexthor could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. A holographic display materialized in the center of the hall, showing a massive fleet emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. The ship's design was unlike anything in known space. "Unknown contacts," an calm voice announced. "Configuration suggests origin swarm vessels. Hostile intent probable based on historical data." The alien diplomats began to panic, but Chen merely sighed and checked her watch. "Right on schedule. We were wondering when they'd show up." "You knew about them." Vexthor's scales flashed with alarm. "The origin swarm. Of course. They've been watching us for centuries, just as we've been watching them. They destroy any civilization they deem too advanced. It's why we kept up the primitive act for so long." Chen took another sip of her coffee. We've been preparing for this conversation since we first detected them. Dr. Martinez joined them, tablet in hand. All defense systems are ready, Admiral. Though I still think we should show them Project Olympus first. It would save time. Now, Sarah. Chen smiled. Where's the fun in that? Let's do this properly. First contact protocols, just like we practiced. She turned to Vexthor. Ambassador, you might want to gather your people in the observation deck. This should be educational. Educational? Vexthor's scales had turned the pale green of anxiety. Those ships, our entire fleet couldn't stand against a force that size. Good thing it's not your fleet facing them then, Martinez grinned. Watch and learn why we spent so much time perfecting our defensive capabilities. The massive holographic display showed the Origin swarm approaching. Thousands of biomechanical ships moving with singular purpose. A transmission cut through all frequencies. A harsh, metallic voice speaking in multiple languages simultaneously. Primitive species, you have exceeded your allocated development parameters. You will be reset to acceptable levels. Resistance is. The voice cut off as every Origin ship suddenly found itself wrapped in what appeared to be gentle streams of rainbow-colored light. Hello. Chen's voice broadcasted across space, her tone cheerful. We're humanity, and we've been looking forward to meeting you. We have some thoughts about your approach to galactic development. Would you like to discuss them over coffee?